patience. We are going to get started. So a brief introduction and then we're on to the program. Tyler Knott Gregson is a poet, author, professional photographer, and artist who has written at least one new poem a day for the last 5 years. With over 259,000 followers on Tumblr, 184,000 followers on Instagram, and 31,000 followers on Twitter, he has inspired unique works of art as well as tattoos. This might be why Chasers of Light is now a bestseller, which is relatively unheard of for a book of poetry, so kudos. When he is not writing, he operates his photography company, Treehouse Photography. He will be interviewed tonight with book editor Meg Letter. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Tyler Knott Gregson and Meg Letter.
I'd like to introduce Tyler. They already introduced him. He is our author at Penguin Group. Do you need it on? Okay. Is that better? Yeah? Okay. So we thought we would do a quick Q&A. You'll just have to bear with us. I think we're both a little bit nervous.
A lot bit. There's a lot of people. There's so many people.
It's an amazing turnout. Thank you for coming.
Everybody. Thank you.
Tyler, I was wondering if you could talk to us a little bit about why you started writing poetry.
Oh man, it's starting like hard already.
I know, right? Yeah.
Honestly, for me, I've always felt like my brain is like a really noisy place, and poetry was one of the only ways I found that didn't have rules, that I could kind of quiet all of the nonsense that was going on. And so for me, poetry was a way. I hated in school when you had to write 5-paragraph thesis-based essays and all that thing, because there always had to be a format to it. And for me, poetry was a way to kind of spill it all out without having to, I don't know, make it fit into some kind of format that I didn't want it to fit. And so poetry for me was just an escape. It was a release valve for like a really noisy head, Yeah.
Do you think that one of the reasons you use a typewriter, can you guys hear us all okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never held a microphone in, so volume fluctuates.
Tell us a little bit about how you found your way to a typewriter.
Yeah, so I don't know, I write in a lot of different ways. Whatever paper I have, whatever I can dig up, I tend to write on. I usually have a text message open to my email, so I can just send myself little lines and stuff. But we were at an antique store in Helena, and there was this gorgeous old, I think it was made in 1927 or something, typewriter. And I wanted just to see if anything, if it worked. And so I put in a piece of paper. You have the book, so I do blackout poems with old book pages. And so I had the title page of this broken book, and I just kind of stuck it in, and I was like, there's no possible way the ribbon is gonna work. And so I just kind of started, and I loved the way it felt and sounded and smelled, and everything's so digital today that it was so awesome. And it was really rad to be able to hold on to something that I just typed in. I don't know, but a lot of people here probably have never seen a typewriter. So they're dying,
We agree.
Yeah.
We mean snapping.
Okay, perfect. I like the snaps. It's like a movie. But yeah, so I don't know. When you use a typewriter on the back, you're able to actually feel the way the words feel. And for me, I don't know, I'm very texture based, and so to be able to write a poem and then feel the poem, that was amazing to me. So
on your typewriter, do you have a favorite quirk or key?
there's a button that says tabular, and I say rad a lot, and I get teased for that, but it always sounded like tubular, and so it kind of fit. I still don't know what tabular does. I think it's broken. But yeah, I like that quirk a lot. I think that's the best.
How you write every day, and I can say as an editor, he is an amazing generator of material. Like, he's very diligent, and a lot of writers have writer's block. How do you find the energy to keep writing every day and to avoid writer's block?
Honestly, with me, it's kind of been the opposite, to be honest. Like I said, I have a really noisy brain, and if anything, I feel like now I have too many things, and so like I do a caption every day for a photo, and I do a haiku every day and I do a poem every day, and it's not enough. You know what I mean? And then sometimes when I have to travel, like, not to let out like a little secret, but like when I travel, I can't bring my giant typewriter with me, so I'll type a few in advance and I'll scan them. And the thing that I found is when a trip is kind of impending and I know that I have to have some, I'll start to type some and I'll start writing, and then it's almost like I black out a little bit, and then I come to later, and like there's nights where I'll start at like 9 o'clock at night, and then at midnight I look and I have like 62 new poems that I just wrote, and they don't ever sound the same or look the same, and I don't know where that comes from. So for anything, it's the writer's block. It's almost been the opposite. Like sometimes I wish I would get a little, so I would just shut up a little bit.
I bet it's really exhilarating. I mean, because you're kind of in flow. I think they call it that, where you're kind of in that zone writing, and it's lucky. It's awesome.
Yeah, I do. I feel like it's lucky. I don't know. And being in a city like New York is really overwhelming because I feel like there's like a billion radios all playing at the same time, and it's ridiculous. I don't know how I haven't been run over by a bus. It's been fun because everything kind of inspires me a little bit in a different way, and that's part of it. My job, we travel so much with my job. Sarah and I don't know, Sarah's over there. We travel so much with our jobs that every new place I go to and every new thing I see, I come back and I just have a billion new things to think about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Well, that was one of the things I wanted to ask you about. For those of you who don't know, Tyler also does wedding photography, and a lot of your poems, of course, are very swoony. And there are a few I read and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's really, really nice. And I was wondering if being around couples in love so much kind of influences your work.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we're so lucky because the other part of our job is being around people on their happiest day, usually. Their happiest day of their life. I mean, there's sometimes where Sarah and I want to pull them apart secretly, that you don't have to get married. No, it's still me. But yeah, it definitely does. It's hard to not be influenced by love when you're around it that much, and we're always around it. And so, yeah, I think it definitely lends in. But yeah.
What's one of your favorite reactions you've gotten from one of your fans?
To be honest, I think the thing I love the most is, and it makes me the most emotional, is when people tell me that it saved their life. And I think that's something that I have trouble relating to because I live in Montana, in a mountain, and literally my backyard is 350 miles of forest. And so when I meet people and I realize that something I did in that little mountain house had a trickle-down effect where it affected someone's life profoundly enough to save their life in some way, I don't know how to articulate how much that means to me because I don't often get to see the effect, you know what I mean? Yeah. Because I am kind of a hermit that lives in the mountains.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons I've so admired working with you is you pair up so much of your writing and your outreach with charities and social causes, including To Write Love on Her Arms. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about why you think it's important for artists to kind of participate in that larger world.
Honestly, I think it's not just artists. I think everybody needs to. And the great thing is for whatever reason, I have a platform where I can reach way more people way quicker. And so with me, I feel like there's a responsibility with that. And you kind of have a choice. You can either chase the money or you can try to do great things. And my biggest thing, I've always told my family, the only way I'll sell out ever is to sell out for great causes. And some of these charities that I've been able to team up with, when we started working together, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Crochet Kids, and even Sevenly, when I started working with Sevenly, they were a little bit littler, and it's been so fun to see something small use my platform to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. In fact, I just met today with the CEO of Crochet Kids. Oddly enough, he's from California, I'm from Montana. We ended up meeting in New York, of course. Yeah, exactly. And so I think it's been great to pair those up because I think it's so important. It's helping other people's 99% of the battle. You know what I mean? You have to realize that there's people out there willing to help, and so it's been huge for me. And this has been great to use this platform to do that.
Well, we're going to open the floor to some questions, but before we do, I wanted to see if you have any advice for aspiring writers, poets, anyone, any aspirings.
Yes.
Just kind of leave it there.
Sure. Honestly, just to write, and I know that's like the most cliche and cop-out answer because people are like, I do write, I write every day, you know, I don't, what's the deal? But honestly, I think the most important thing is to just keep writing enough that your natural voice comes out. And, you know, some people tease me and they're like, you write Hallmark cards. And for all those people, I'm always like, do you really read what I'm saying? Because they're sad. Like, there's some really sad stuff. Yeah, and I think, but yeah, honestly, it's the cheapest advice, but it's the truest. It's just to keep writing because the more you write, the more your own voice emerges. And I think honesty resonates so much more than when you try. And so the more you write, the easier it is to be honest, I think.
We've said that from the get-go within our editorial meeting that we think you're completely 100% genuine. And he is the most authentic person I've met, and I think that,
to a fault.
yeah, you are. I think that really resonates with people, so I think you're doing a good job of practicing what you're saying. I'm a little biased, but yeah.
No, well,
Yeah.
I don't know, I just think there's so many things that are cheap and hollow today that it's like, you can, and I think people can spot a phony a million miles an hour or a million miles away. Like, you know, if I came over here and I was not nervous, I would be nervous because I don't think people would want that, you know what I mean? I don't know, and so I think, yeah, just keep writing and find your honest voice, and when you find it, it doesn't matter if people tease you, it doesn't matter, just find your voice and write in it, because it's when you start trying to write like somebody that taught you, or to try to write like your favorite authors, or everybody's gonna notice, and I don't think it'll resonate the same. You know, there's something to be said for honesty, especially in today's world.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah. So, do you guys have some questions back there?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to say that you're such an inspiring person. Just completely love your work.
Thank you.
But your work seems to be about persons. Do you usually write about? Is it about one person that you have had history with, or is it just?
I think honestly, that's a great. So he asked. I don't know if everybody can hear.
Yeah, can you guys hear the
He just
question?
asked me to respond or repeat.
Yeah.
So he's wondering if the things I write about are about a certain person. Honestly, I think they're about. It's kind of an amalgam of like everything that I've ever wanted, and all the things that I'm kind of holding out for, if that makes sense.
Oh.
And I don't know. Same with the honesty thing. I think it's so easy today to settle and to just say, oh, this is good enough. And I think good enough is one of the most dangerous two words you could possibly say, because it's when you start settling for good enough that at some point, and this is like I was saying, some of these weddings we shoot, we're like, you can stop, you know what I mean? Every one of those, I guarantee at some point they made a conscious decision to settle for good enough. And I don't know, so for me, I'm writing about the one thing that I've been waiting my whole life to not be good enough, you know what I mean? It needs to be more, it needs to be what I write about, and there's a reason I've been writing about it. So yeah, I mean, there's certainly, I'm sure people bleed over into what I write about, but mostly I'm just writing about that one thing that I'm holding on for, you know?
Good question.
Yeah.
What is the message you're trying to give with your poetry and any saying that you do? Like, what's that big thing you want us to like stick in our minds or to think of when you do it?
Okay, she said, what is like the big message that I'm trying to put across, or the thing to stick in your mind?
It's a question for school, so I
Yeah,
just wanna-
no, that's great. I love that. That's a great question.
every poetry unit, you're my person. So when I
no
learned
way.
you were here, I'm like, yes, I got
Oh,
it.
thank you.
Because
She's doing a poetry.
Because everybody's poet's dead and you're the only one left. So I'm like,
A
yes.
lot of people think I'm dead, actually. You'd be surprised how many people email me and they're like, you're still alive. I'm like, last I checked. I don't know, I would think there's a reason why I tend to write about love more than anything, and for me, I just have always thought that, I think that love is the most dominating force on the planet, and I know I've had people email me and they'd be like, it is not hate, it is more, you know, and I'm always like, I don't know, I think literally, I mean, almost everything that happens, I think if you broke it down and down and down, at some point, love is at the root of it all. I mean, religious wars, political wars, at some point it's someone fighting for something that they love or that they believe enough in to love. And so, for me, I think that love is the reason why I write about that, is because for me it's the most important thing, and again, kind of like I just said, I think my biggest message is just to not settle for good enough, because it's way too easy to do that. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay, wait. Let me know if we're tough on time. So, yeah, okay. Yeah.
I hate favorites, but I would say if I could just hear from you a few poets that might have influenced you, and I'm sure everybody here knows you from Instagram. Do you have any accounts that you might recommend to them?
Sure.
That love, the new poets that are.
Yeah. Old poets.
Old poets.
Yeah, old poets. I've always. It's funny because I've never taken a poetry class or a creative writing class, and if there's teachers in here, they're probably like, I hate you. But I've always had this weird thought that if you are taught how to do something, you're going to do it like the person that taught you. And so I've always been terrified of that in any kind of artistic endeavor. I mean, if you're teaching me math, fine, teach me the fastest possible way. You know what I mean? But when it comes to anything artistic, for me, I never wanted to learn. So I'm even kind of funny about reading other poets because I'm always afraid. What's that?
Are you a left-handed Leo?
I'm not. I'm a right-handed Cancer. I have no idea what that means, but that's what I am. But no, old poets, I love Neruda. I think my all-time favorite, honestly, would be Walt Whitman. He definitely has my all-time favorite poem. And you're in the bookstore, so it's When I Heard the Learned Astronomer, and it's like that's how I go through life. You know, he has this quote that he said once that he said, "To me, every hour of the day is an unspeakably perfect miracle," and I just think that's, if you can walk through life like that, you're gonna be all right. Whitman, Neruda, I love T.S. Eliot. New poets, I honestly don't have time really to read, but there's a lot of really great ones on Instagram, and I think I get questioned a lot by people saying, does it bother you that, because I didn't invent the typewriter, I didn't invent poetry, but a lot of people seem to think that the typewriter series thing kind of exploded a little bit after I started doing it. But honestly, I just love that people are creating. I think it's so easy to destroy things today that the more people that are making art, go ahead, you know what I mean? And so I do need to be better about reading contemporary stuff, but I don't know, I'm always afraid that if I read someone's great line, I'm gonna be like, it's gonna sneak its way into something later.
It's very influential.
Yeah, so, but no, a lot of the old stuff I keep falling back onto. I love Neruda and I love Whitman, probably the most. So, yeah.
We have time for 2 more questions. I feel like I've been neglecting this side of the room. So should we do one over here?
Sure,
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, great. I wanted to know, you write so much. You said you write every single day. So for 5 years, that's crazy. How do you determine, let's say, once you write something, is this, let's say, good enough for me to, let's say, publish? Or
Sure.
Are you happy with what you write? How do you determine that?
So he wondered how I determine with how much I write, how I determine which ones are good enough to post or whatever. And honestly, I write a lot. The way I write, it all comes out in one burst, and then when it's done, I usually don't even read it, to be honest. It's almost like this catharsis that I have to get it out of me, and once I get it out of me, I don't want anything to do with it again. And so a lot of times I'll forget things that I've written, but my rule of thumb is, especially because I'm using the typewriter, I can never go back and edit it. I can't change it. I can't do anything with it. Once it's done, it becomes, I don't know, kind of like a Polaroid of that moment for me. And so I can go back later and look at those, and I can say, that's exactly what I was feeling at that exact moment. And I can't change that, because if I were to go back today and change something I wrote 5 years ago, today me is going to be influencing 5 years ago me, and it won't be the same thing. And so I just post everything I write. I don't, there's maybe a few exceptions. A few exceptions where I say things that I don't want everybody to know or something, but it's very rare. I've been pretty open where I just, whatever I write, I think everybody can read, so.
We have time for one more question. I'll let you pick. I feel bad.
Me pick?
Yeah.
Let's do 2 more, so then we can each pick one.
Okay, that sounds good. You go first.
I know this is a very broad question because you have hundreds and thousands of poems, but what is your favorite musical favorite?
Oh man, she asked out of all my poems, which one's my favorite?
Uh-oh. Pick your
I think
favorite
if I were to
child.
stick to just the typewriter series, I don't know the number numbers very well, but it might. I think it's 111 maybe, and it's in the book. It's the one that says "Kiss me like a sin," I think is what it is. And
Kiss me like the sea, and
yeah,
the sea's always been home.
like the big tent preacher one.
Oh,
I don't see
yeah.
I don't remember how long. But it's the one that "Hold Me Like a Revival" is, and I don't know why, but that one to me, when I read that one back, or when people send it to me, or when I do prints of that one, I hear that one in my head, and I still feel exactly how I felt when I wrote it, and I feel like that's, I don't know, that means something. So I think it's 111. I don't know. It's in the book.
And one more. Okay, I'll go back there.
By the way, I'm a music teacher, so that was awesome when you said not to teach creativity.
Sorry.
But no, it's okay, because I love you. You're like the only poet that I've ever connected with in my life. I used to
Thank
hate
you.
poetry until I read your stuff, and I was
That's
like, oh,
awesome.
this is awesome. Have you ever considered doing an audiobook?
It's an interesting question. We've been talking about that, right?
Yeah. Actually, that's really funny that you brought that up, because just today, I don't know, I assume maybe everybody follows me on Instagram, but I did that charity thing for the Toe Project, and how that all came to be was so funny. They asked me to read it. They just said, can you send an audio file so our actress knows how to read it for the video? And it was like 1 in the morning, and I think we had just got done shooting a wedding, and I was exhausted, and they needed it by the next day, so I read it into my phone and just sent it. And I woke up the next morning, and she said, oh my God, is there any way you would narrate the whole project? We want it to be you, we want it to be, no one else could do this. And I absolutely hate the sound of my voice. I'm like phobic about it. So like, when we were talking about coming up here, it's like, can I not have a microphone? Like, I absolutely hate it. And so, but the response has been so great that I think we were actually discussing it today, and the idea of maybe getting into some kind of a studio with more microphones. And so I think we might try to do it. I don't know. You guys have to make about that.
Yeah, we want to. And you just won't have to listen to it.
Exactly. I'll just have like noise canceling earphones on and not hear it at all.
All right, so I think we're gonna sign books now,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay, everyone. It really picks me up. So we're gonna start, like I said, with the people standing. So we're gonna rearrange up here, and I will call you guys up. Just be right with you.